Tonight we stand at the edge of another world. The stars above you are so thick they look like a spill of white maize across black stone. The night air still carries yesterday's smoke, burnt copal resin clinging to your nostrils, reminding you of the gods watching from above. You feel the hard-packed earth beneath your feet, and the faint dampness of morning dew still clings to your toes. This is your life in a Maya city, many centuries ago. It is beautiful, and it is brutal. You probably won't survive this, if we're being honest, between the endless work, the hungry rulers, and the mosquitoes large enough to carry off a small child, your odds aren't exactly stellar. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Now, dim the lights, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You wake before dawn, and the smoke is the first thing you notice. The hearth embers never fully die, so the coals keep a steady trickle of haze curling into the rafters. Your eyes sting, your throat scratches, but this is normal, you've never known a morning without it. The family mat rolls away from beneath you, and with sleepy feet you shuffle toward the fire pit. Someone has already heated maize gruel, thin and slightly sour, but warm enough to trick your stomach into thinking it's full. You scoop some into a clay cup, slurp quickly, and feel the steam fog your nose. Not delicious, not terrible, just fuel for another grinding day. The sky outside your hut is painted grey-pink, birds calling from the sabre tree. Across the courtyard, you glimpse your neighbors yawning, stretching, and coughing just like you. Everyone is awake early. That's the only way to finish what needs finishing before the sun grows unbearable. And your task, every single day, is the same. Grind cacao beans into paste for drinks strong enough to please warriors and nobles, or mild enough to soothe your family. You shuffle to the grinding stone, the metate. It rests low, 3 short legs supporting the slab. The stone feels cool this early, but soon your hands will burn against its rough surface. Your mother hands you the mano, the stone roller that will wear your arms down to stubs one day. Already your shoulders ache just thinking about it. You take a breath, kneel, and place the first handful of roasted beans on the slab. They crunch loudly under the roller, and the aroma bursts upward, bittersweet, earthy, almost smoky. For a moment, your chest lifts. The smell of chocolate is comfort, even if most of the cup won't be yours to drink. Your task is endless, but at least it smells divine. You push forward and back, and the grinding sings like a rasping lullaby through the courtyard. Fact time. Cacao was so important to Maya society that the word for chocolate, zocolatl, eventually traveled across the world. Without your sore wrists and bent back, some fancy European king centuries later wouldn't be dunking pastries in hot cocoa. You're basically a pioneer, though nobody in your lifetime will thank you for it. As you grind, your family murmurs around you. Your younger siblings tug at one another, chasing a mangy dog that smells like swamp mud. Your father sharpens tools with a patient scrape, the sound clashing with your metate's rhythm. Life here is simple in some ways, complex in others. Every person has their duty, and yours is to grind until your arms cry. The gruel in your stomach sloshes uncomfortably. You wish there were honey to sweeten it, but honey is precious and rarely wasted on breakfast. Mostly, your diet is maize, beans, squash, and chocolate when it can be spared. Historians still argue whether cacao was really a daily drink for all classes or something only wealthier households consumed regularly. Either way, this morning you know your family will share at least a thin version, watered down but still tasting faintly of heaven. Your mind wanders as the beans crack and smear under your weight. Sometimes, you wonder about the cacao trees themselves, growing far away in the forest. Their pods hang like golden lanterns, filled with seeds hidden in sticky white pulp. You've seen them only once, during a rare trip with your uncle to the groves. You'd bitten into the raw pulp, sweet, tangy, almost floral, and nearly gagged when you tasted the raw beans inside. The magic only happens after roasting, when bitterness blooms into the drink everyone craves. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some people claim cacao can make you hear the gods better. Not in the burning bush kind of way, but in dreams, visions, strange whispers when you're half asleep. You've heard your grandmother mutter about it when she sneaks an extra sip before bed. You're not sure if it's true, but you'll admit, after a long grinding day and a cup too strong, you sometimes hear things in the night like jaguar growls that no neighbor dog could produce. Your knees press into the woven mat beneath the metate. The reed fibers prick your skin, already damp with sweat though the sun hasn't yet crested. You keep grinding, because to stop is to fall behind, and no one forgives a lazy grinder. The paste thickens, smooth and shining under your roller. You lean closer, nose filling with chocolate steam, until your mother taps your shoulder. Don't breathe it all in, there has to be enough for everyone else. The day has just begun, and already you feel that mix of dread and rhythm. It is endless work, yes. But it is also survival, and something in you, the same thing that pushes birds to sing before sunrise, keeps pressing the stone forward and back. The sun begins to light the world, golden lines across the stucco walls, and the air grows heavier with warmth. You gulp the last of your watery gruel, wishing it were thicker, sweeter, or even flavored with chili to wake you up. But breakfast is never indulgent. Breakfast is just endurance. The smoke lingers still, clinging to your hair and clothes, and you accept it. Smoke, maize, chocolate, sweat, that's the perfume of your life. Tomorrow will smell the same. And tomorrow, you'll still be here, rolling stone on stone, as steady and unending as the beating of your own heart. You pause for only a moment, resting the mano on the edge of the metate, stretching your fingers against the grit of stone. Your joints creak softly, and the ache in your shoulders reminds you of yesterday's hours, pressing, rolling, scraping until your arms felt like they belonged to someone else. The soreness has lingered through the night like an unwelcome guest, and now it rises with you again, heavy and familiar. You lift your arms overhead, stretching until your spine pops, and mutter a small prayer that today's labor won't finish you off entirely. Spoiler alert, it probably will. The morning sky grows brighter, pinks and oranges bleeding into blue, and the courtyard fills with the shuffle of neighbors. From one side you hear the rhythmic beat of a pestle-pounding maze, from another the thwack of a mat being shaken out. Life in the household is a constant chorus of repetitive noises, all of them shaped by muscle and necessity. A neighbor shouts something about the rain last night, too much, or too little, depending on whether your maize field is uphill or down. Your arms are stiff, but you press palms to your thighs, breathing deeply, preparing to kneel again. Ritual matters too, though. Before setting back to grinding, your mother insists you join her in a chant. She sprinkles a pinch of maize flour into the fire pit, whispering words that tumble like river stones. The smoke rises thicker, and the smell of copal resin stings your eyes again. You echo her chant quietly, half from belief, half from habit. It's one part devotion, one part procrastination. You'll take any delay before facing that grinding stone again. Historical fact moment. The Maya believed every part of life carried spiritual weight. Even mundane work, like your endless cacao grinding, was stitched to ritual. Some scholars argue that the chants were less about cosmic necessity and more about keeping rhythm, giving focus to long tasks. Either way, when you mutter to the fire before you grind, you're part of something larger, your family, your community, the endless thread that ties maize and cacao to gods and rulers. You roll your shoulders, testing the ache. Every muscle feels pulled like a bowstring. Some of your friends joke that grinding is its own form of training. Who needs a spear or shield when your forearms could crush a gourd? You're not so sure. The warriors swagger by, showing off scars, while you sit hunched over a stone, breathing in smoke. Still, maybe one day those same warriors will envy your stamina. After all, their battles are short, but yours lasts every day. A quirky tidbit you've overheard: some say that grinding cacao strengthens not only the body but the spirit. That the rhythm of it tunes you like an instrument, steadying your mind. Others swear it's just a fancy excuse the elders used to make kids work without complaining. Between you and me, the second theory sounds far more accurate. You rise briefly to shake out your legs, and the ground under your feet feels cool, damp from last night's rain. A few frogs still croak near the drainage ditch, and their sound mixes with your own groans as you bend and stretch. Your siblings laugh at you, arms flapping in strange stretches, face grimacing like a jaguar with a stomachache. You glare, but secretly you're glad for the break. The fire pops behind you, spitting a hot ember that nearly lands on your heel. You leap forward with a yelp, earning another round of laughter. Fine. Maybe the gods are laughing too. You settle back to the metate, but not before glancing at the eastern horizon. The first true rays of sun pierce above the trees, hot already, and you sigh. The day will be long. The day is always long. Historians still argue whether the average household truly spent every day grinding cacao, or whether that was more typical of those serving nobles. But from your sore arms and endless mornings, it sure feels like the scholars are overthinking things. You kneel, brace your palms, and return to the rhythm. Push forward, pull back. The scraping sound is harsh at first, then softer as the beans become paste. You think of the warriors who will gulp this drink before marching out, painted red and black, feathers flashing. They will boast of their bravery, but you know they'll owe at least half of it to the energy in this bitter, frothy liquid. No one writes songs about sore-armed grinders, though. Your breath comes steadier now. Stretching eased the sharpest pain, but the dull ache will follow you until sunset. You've learned to live with it. You hum softly to distract yourself, letting your chant weave into the scraping of stone. The neighbors' sounds, children calling, hens clucking, a dog growling over scraps, blend into a background hum. By mid-morning, your arms feel both numb and alive. You pause to stretch again, leaning back, arching until your spine cracks. Relief shivers down your body, and you laugh quietly. Maybe you'll survive another day. Maybe. The cacao paste glistens dark and sticky on the stone. You scrape it into a gourd, fingers coated with the oily sheen. The smell clings to you, bittersweet and intoxicating. For a brief, foolish second, you imagine smearing it on your sore shoulders like a salve. Who knows, maybe it would work. Chocolate cures heartbreak later in history, maybe it could cure stiff joints now. One last stretch before you rise. One last prayer whispered under your breath, half a plea for strength, half a complaint about sore muscles. The gods may not care, but complaining out loud always helps. The day moves forward, and so do you. Arms aching, back protesting, but body warm and alive. You've stretched, you've chanted, you've endured. And the grinding will continue, as steady and endless as the sunrise. The paste on the metate clings like tar, and the smell grows richer with every pass of the stone roller. You lean into it, shoulders rolling forward, arms driving the weight again and again. There is no rushing this work. Cacao doesn't grind itself, and the gods aren't going to lend you an extra pair of hands. So you surrender to the rhythm. Push forward, scrape back. Push, scrape. The sound fills the courtyard, loud enough to drown out even your siblings' chatter for a moment. If you close your eyes, you can almost hear it as music. The scrape of the stone is steady, the crack of beans sharp, the paste squelching like a drum softened with cloth. It's not a melody anyone would hum, but it's a beat you know better than your own heartbeat. After all, this rhythm has been with you every day of your life. Here's a solid historical fact for you. The metate and mano you're working with are tools used not only for cacao, but also for grinding maize, the foundation of Maya life. Cacao, however, demands more patience. Maize gives way quicker under stone, while cacao fights back, oily and stubborn, requiring longer hours, stronger arms, and less daydreaming. By the time the beans transform into that glossy paste, your body feels as ground down as they do. A bead of sweat slips from your forehead, landing on the paste. You groan, wipe your brow with the back of your arm, and pretend it didn't happen. It's not like anyone can tell once the mixture gets whisked into froth. Still, you imagine some noble taking a dainty sip later and declaring, tastes earthy, without realizing the earthy part came directly from you. The courtyard hums with parallel sounds. Your neighbor to the left is grinding maize for tortillas, the scrape higher pitched than your deeper, chocolate rhythm. A dog barks at nothing. Somewhere a baby cries, setting off a chorus of hush-hush from half the adults nearby. You breathe deep, pushing through the ache, letting the rhythm take you over until it feels like you and the stone are one. A quirky tidbit you once overheard from a traveling merchant drifts back into your mind. He swore that in some villages, people believed the sound of grinding cacao could ward off evil spirits. Apparently, the scraping noise annoyed them so much they slunk away in disgust. You chuckled at the thought back then, and now you chuckle again. If that's true, your courtyard must be the safest place in the city. Demons wouldn't survive 5 minutes against the racket you're making. Still, the repetition has its dangers. The work hypnotizes you. Sometimes you drift so deeply into the rhythm you forget where you are. More than once you've caught yourself rolling the stone long after the paste was smooth, as though the stone was moving you instead of the other way around. Historians still argue whether the Maya saw grinding as mere survival labor or as a sacred practice tied to cosmic cycles. Standing, or rather, kneeling, here in your courtyard, you're convinced it's both. The sun climbs higher, and its light spills over the courtyard wall, making your paste shimmer darkly. You pause just to admire it, rich, smooth, alive with scent. You almost convince yourself to lick your finger, but you stop. The paste is bitter, and besides, your mother would smack the back of your head if she caught you stealing from the household's future trade. You stretch your back briefly, glance upward, and watch a pair of macaws fly overhead, screeching like badly tuned trumpets. Your younger sibling runs after them, waving a stick as if they could knock a bird from the sky. You laugh under your breath and return to the stone. By mid-morning, the paste is perfect, soft, glossy, pliant. You scrape it off the metate with a flat shard of gourd, piling it into a small clay bowl. The smell lingers on the stone, on your hands, in your hair. It's as though chocolate has seeped into your very bones. You don't resist. There are worse things to be soaked in, like crocodile dung sunscreen, which, yes, some of your ancestors thought was a good idea. Remember that gem? Still beats mosquito bites the size of mangoes, though. Your mother nods approvingly when you present the bowl. She dips a finger, tastes, and declares it ready. Relief sweeps through you. Approval always matters, even after years of grinding. Then she hands you another handful of roasted beans. Of course she does. One bowl is never enough. And so you begin again. Push forward, scrape back. The rhythm carries you, the world narrowing to stone and sound. The courtyard, the noise, the heat, they fade until there's only cacao and you, locked in an endless dance of pressure and patience. The rhythm of the metate hums along, but your ears tune outward as much as inward. The courtyard has a way of carrying sound like a conch shell, amplifying everything your neighbors say until it's impossible not to overhear. You don't mean to eavesdrop, but when you spend hours bent over stone, your mind goes hunting for distraction. And oh, today's gossip does not disappoint. Across the narrow alley, two women grind maize side by side, their conversation louder than their stones. One grumbles about the last tribute collection, too many baskets of beans demanded, not enough maize left for her own children. The other replies with a hiss about a cousin who got caught watering down chocolate before selling it to a noble's servant. The scandal. Diluted cacao is nearly as bad as selling fake jade. You press your lips together, trying not to laugh. Historical fact incoming. Cacao wasn't just a drink, it was currency. A single bean could buy a tomato. 100 beans might fetch you a rabbit. So when someone cheats by hollowing out beans or sneaking ash into ground paste, it's more than bad taste, it's basically counterfeiting. No wonder tempers flare. The chatter continues, and you catch your name drifting through. You pause mid-grind, ears pricked. One neighbor claims you work too slowly, that your arms are soft. Another disagrees, saying she saw your paste yesterday and it was smoother than her cousin's. You smirk despite yourself. Who knew grinding could make you famous or infamous around the block? Your younger brother darts past, nearly tripping over your mat, chasing after a dog dragging half a tortilla in its mouth. The women cackle, tossing in remarks about children raised by dogs and dogs raised by children. You try to keep your face neutral, but inside, you're laughing. The grinding stone may rule your life, but gossip makes the hours bearable. Quirky tidbit: some households, instead of wasting words on complaints, used nicknames for different grinding rhythms. A sharp, fast scrape might be called angry lizard. A slow, heavy roll could be lazy jaguar. Your rhythm today, with its steady forward back scrape, would probably be dubbed resigned turtle. Not that you'd admit it aloud. The courtyard conversation heats up as a young man struts past, carrying a basket of peppers. Instantly, the women pounce with jokes about his hair greased too much, styled like he's courting every girl in town. You can't help but chuckle, head down, shoulders shaking, the rhythm of your grind hiccuping with your amusement. Historians still argue whether cacao preparation was mostly women's work or if men often took part. Looking at your own aching shoulders, you'd say the truth depends on the household. But one thing is certain, whoever grinds also overhears everything. If secrets were cacao beans, your courtyard could feed the entire kingdom. The heat creeps higher, turning gossip into short, sharp bursts as people conserve energy. Even so, you catch whispers about a neighbor's maize field blighted, about a marriage proposal between two families, about whether the king's tribute collectors will increase their demands this season. The weight of it all presses down heavier than your grinding stone. Every bean you crush feels like a bean owed to someone else. You pause to stretch again, rolling your neck, flexing your fingers, pretending you're simply loosening muscles when really you're listening harder. A grandmother scolds her grandson for spilling water. Someone mutters about the gods being angry with too much rain. Another insists the gods are angry with not enough offerings. Always the gods, always the complaints. You sigh, pressing the mano harder into the paste, channeling irritation into the grind. The smell of cacao rises thicker now, as if mocking the bitterness of the gossip. It smells warm, indulgent, a comfort you rarely taste in full strength. You scrape the paste, smooth it again, and let the chatter swirl around you. Perhaps gossip itself is another kind of fuel spicing the day, keeping boredom from swallowing you whole. By late morning, your shoulders scream, your arms tremble, and the neighbors' voices soften as each of them sinks into their own labor. Even the gossip grows tired, replaced with silence broken only by grinding, sweeping, coughing, the occasional chicken squawk. You glance up, meeting one neighbor's eye across the way, both of you smiling faintly. No words, just the acknowledgement that in this endless work, you're all bound together by the same rhythm. You lean into your stone again, the scrape loud, steady, almost like a heartbeat echoing through the courtyard. The bowl of paste gleams dark and rich, but of course it isn't finished. Not even close. Chocolate, at least the kind that pleases nobles and warriors, demands more than just ground beans. Your mother hands you a small pouch of maize flour, and you sigh because you know what comes next. More mixing, more grinding, and best of all, a splash of chili. Yes, chili. Forget the sweet hot cocoa you're probably picturing with marshmallows floating on top. The Maya way is a wake-up call straight to your tongue. You sprinkle in the powder, bright red against the chocolate paste, and instantly the scent rises sharp and nose-prickling. You cough, wave your hand, and mutter that maybe the warriors only pretend to like it this spicy. Surely no one actually enjoys burning their lips off. But your father insists they swear by it, that the heat makes them feel strong, fierce, ready for battle. You suspect it's bravado. After all, warriors never admit anything hurts, not even when they limp home with jaguar scratches. Here's a historical fact to savor. The classic Maya cacao drink wasn't just cacao and chili. It was often mixed with maize gruel, water, and sometimes honey or flowers, depending on what was available. The chili, though, was a frequent addition, giving the drink a fiery kick. For those with wealth or status, extra flavorings like vanilla were added to show off. But for you, chili is cheap, chili is plentiful, and chili finds its way into nearly everything. You take the mano again and start pressing the mixture together, folding chili and maize into the glossy cacao paste. The smell is intoxicating, sweet and bitter layered with sharp spice. Your nose runs, your eyes water, and you laugh softly. A joke escapes your lips before you can stop it. This drink could kill a man faster than a spear. Your younger brother overhears and snickers, repeating it to your sister, who then insists on pretending to keel over dramatically, tongue lolling. The courtyard erupts in giggles. Quirky tidbit. Some say the foam that forms when cacao is whisked is what the gods themselves crave. The Maya developed elaborate ways of pouring the liquid from vessel to vessel to create that froth. Without foam, some people argue, it's not real chocolate at all. You haven't mastered the pouring technique yet, it's trickier than it looks, especially with chili stinging your eyes. Last time you tried, half the mixture ended up on the floor, and the dog lapped it up with a snort and sneeze so violent you thought it would tip over. You glance at the warriors striding past the courtyard gate, their faces painted with streaks of red and black. They carry themselves with a swagger that says, "Yes, we will drink your chocolate and then fight jaguars before lunch." You roll your eyes and mutter under your breath, "Sure, but who's grinding the beans for you, The warriors don't hear, but your mother shoots you a sharp look anyway. Sarcasm doesn't make the paste smoother. Historians still argue whether cacao drinks were mostly ceremonial luxuries or also part of daily life for commoners. Standing here, chili fumes in your nose, you're convinced it's both. For ceremonies, yes, the perfect frothy drink poured into fancy painted vessels. But for your family, it's also breakfast, lunch, and maybe dinner if the gods are feeling generous. A thinner version, less cacao, more maize, but still warming, still filling. Not glamorous, but survival rarely is. You keep grinding, folding the chili through until the paste takes on a red tint. The mixture thickens, sticky and oily, clinging to your fingers. You resist the urge to lick them, 1, because the taste would be overwhelming, and 2, because your mother would smack you for wasting even a speck. The paste is scraped into a gourd bowl, ready for whisking into water later. The air grows hotter with the sun climbing high, but the smell of chocolate and chili clings around you like perfume. You inhale, exhale, and try to convince yourself it's a reward instead of more work. Your siblings beg for a sip early, noses wrinkling with anticipation, but your father shakes his head. First, a portion must be set aside for someone else, a noble, a warrior, perhaps even an offering for the gods. You sigh, knowing that by the time it's your turn, you'll get only the thinnest of the thin dregs. Still, the thought of that fiery, bitter drink, chocolate biting your tongue, chili warming your chest, makes the ache in your arms a little easier to bear. By now the courtyard hum has shifted again, the gossip fading, replaced with the low groans of people who've been working for hours already. The smell of maize toasting drifts across from the neighbor's fire, mingling with your chili cacao aroma until your stomach rumbles. A rooster crows, late and confused, as if announcing lunch instead of dawn. You chuckle. Another bowl of paste sits ready, the mixture smooth, dark, streaked faintly with red. Your arms tremble, your head pounds from chili fumes, but there's satisfaction too. The warriors will drink and boast, the nobles will sip and judge, and you'll get your taste eventually. Maybe tonight. Maybe not. Either way, the chili has already worked its trick. You feel more awake now, sharper, as if the spice has burned away your fatigue. Perhaps that's the real secret of the warrior's bravado. It's not courage, it's chili. The courtyard feels like a kill now, the morning sun hammering down on your back as though the gods themselves are testing your patience. Sweat rolls in beads along your forehead, sliding down your neck, and your fingers are sticky with chocolate oils no matter how often you wipe them on your tunic. By midday, even the dogs look tired, tongues lolling, bellies flat against the cool dirt. It's the perfect moment to take the one break you actually look forward to, the trip to the market. You cradle a gourd filled with cacao paste and another small pouch of beans, currency as much as ingredient. Your mother tells you to keep a close eye on both. Everyone knows stories of children who return from the market with fewer beans than they left with, thanks to sticky fingers or generous trades that were really just being swindled. You swear it won't happen to you, though you secretly worry it might. The streets pulse with sound as you head toward the plaza. Vendors shout their wares, dogs bark, children dart underfoot, and somewhere a flute player wrestles valiantly with a tune that sounds suspiciously like a turkey being strangled. You wince but keep walking, trying to look serious, like someone no one should mess with. Unfortunately, your sore arms and sticky tunic don't exactly scream intimidation. The market bursts open before you, a patchwork of colors, smells, and noises so thick you almost forget your aching muscles. Stalls are shaded with woven mats, bright feathers hang like banners, and pyramids of goods tempt you in every direction. Jade beads glitter under the sun, feathered headdresses sway in the breeze, and clay vessels line the ground in neat rows, painted with jaguars, serpents, and the occasional squiggle that looks like it was drawn by a distracted child. Here's a historical fact for your stroll. Maya markets weren't just about goods, they were social hubs, places where gossip, politics, and alliances were traded as easily as cacao beans. Merchants traveled long distances to bring obsidian, salt, and cotton, weaving entire regions together through these bustling plazas. So when you step into the crowd, you're not just shopping, you're stepping into the bloodstream of the city. The smells hit you next. Roasting maize, sizzling turkey, fresh herbs, pungent fish hauled in from the coast days ago. You breathe deeply, though you regret it when you pass a stall selling fermented drinks so sour your nose nearly folds in on itself. You cough, mutter that someone should invent air freshener, then laugh at your own joke, which earns a confused look from a passing grandmother. You stop to admire a cloak dyed brilliant blue with indigo. The merchant eyes you knowingly, probably recognizing the "I want this but will never afford it" expression plastered across your face. You shrug and move on. Next, a stall offers turkey legs stacked high, though one bird hangs lopsided, its head at an angle that makes you suspicious. You whisper to yourself, that one probably died of boredom before they cooked it. Quirky tidbit: in some parts of the Maya world, iguana was considered a delicacy. Yes, iguana. You've never tried it, though you've seen a scrawny lizard roasting once at a festival. The merchant swore it tasted like chicken, but then again, people always say that about strange meats. You wander deeper, clutching your pouch tighter as you pass a group of traders counting cacao beans into piles. They weigh them carefully, eyes sharp, fingers quick. Everyone knows the tricks: hollowing beans, painting pebbles, mixing in bad ones with the good. You narrow your eyes at a boy offering what looks suspiciously like a handful of oversized beans. Historians still argue about how widespread cacao counterfeiting really was, but judging by the sly grin on that boy's face, it's safe to say it wasn't rare. You pause at a stall selling bright red chilies strung together like beads. The merchant waves one under your nose, and you sneeze so hard the man bursts out laughing. Strong enough to wake the dead, he declares. You wipe your nose and politely decline. After hours grinding cacao with chilly fumes in your eyes, you're not exactly eager to repeat the experience. The market is overwhelming, a swirl of color and noise that makes your head spin. But it's also energizing. Here, you're part of the larger dance of the city, surrounded by voices and lives beyond your courtyard. You overhear a trader boasting of a journey from the coast, carrying salt as precious as jade. Another whispers about rumors of war between distant cities, though whether it's true or just for drama, who can say? Markets carry stories as much as goods. You finally stop at a stall where a woman offers honey in clay jars, golden and glowing in the light. Your mouth waters instantly. Honey in cacao is a dream, a drink for the gods. You count your beans carefully, weighing the cost. In the end, you buy the smallest jar, barely enough for more than a taste. Still, you cradle it like treasure, imagining the sweetness cutting through the bitterness of the chocolate. By the time you've made your way through the market, your pouch is lighter, your arms are fuller, and your stomach growls loudly enough to make a passing dog perk its ears. You take one last look at the stalls, jade, feathers, turkeys, chilies, and all, and head back through the sun-bleached streets. The market's noise fades behind you, replaced again with the grinding rhythm of your neighbors. Back in the courtyard, the stone waits, heavy and silent. You sigh, set down your purchases, and prepare to kneel again. The market is a brief escape, but the grind never lets you go for long. The pouch of beans jingles softly as you set it down beside the metate. Not just drink, not just paste, these tiny, oval seeds are coins, each one worth something in the market's invisible scales of value. A tomato here, a tamale there, maybe a rabbit if you save enough. You stare at them a moment, half amused, half resentful, because today you know you'll spend more time counting cacao beans than actually drinking chocolate. Your mother squats beside you, checking your purchases from the market. She nods at the honey jar, eyes twinkling. A rare treat. Then she frowns at the pouch, spilling a handful of beans into her palm. She inspects them carefully, rolling each between her fingers like a jeweler examining jade. You sigh, this is the part you dread. Historical fact: cacao beans were used as money throughout Mesoamerica. They were so valuable that tribute, trade, and even taxes could be paid with them. But because of that, fraud was rampant. Some people hollowed out beans and stuffed them with dirt or ash. Others carved imitations from clay or wax. Entire households could lose wealth overnight to a careless trade. Which is why your mother inspects each bin like her life depends on it. She cracks one between her fingernails. The inside gleams oily and rich. Good. She moves to another, and another. You try not to groan, it's going to take all afternoon if she keeps this up. Your brother leans over your shoulder, whispering, "What if someone slipped you clay ones?" You shrug. "Then we chew them and break a tooth." Mystery solved. He snorts so loudly your mother swats him with the back of her hand. Quirky tidbit: you once heard a traveling storyteller claim that the gods themselves gamble with cacao beans. They play dice on a jade board, tossing the beans like bones, winning and losing fortunes for mortals below. That's why, he said, some families rise suddenly in wealth while others collapse. You'd like to believe it, but staring at your mother's suspicious squint, you're pretty sure it's less divine gambling and more bad shopping. The sun hangs directly overhead now, shadows short, heat merciless. Your family gathers around the mat, counting beans into neat piles, 10s, 20s, 50s. Your arms ache from grinding, but now your eyes ache from squinting at small brown ovals. The dog lurks nearby, nose twitching. You wave him off. No one eats money, not even him. Historians still argue whether cacao currency inflated over time, especially when harvests were bad. Some say that scarcity raised the value, others that nobles set the rates arbitrarily, like some kind of royal accountant. For you, the only thing that matters is this: do you have enough beans to trade for cloth? For salt? For the honey you just bought? Because beans may be money, but money melts fast when you have mouths to feed. Your sister counts aloud, voice steady. 98, 99, 100. She beams proudly, as if she's conquered a mountain. You ruffle her hair. Then your father adds 3 more piles, muttering under his breath about tribute collectors. Always more tribute. Always another demand. You notice how his shoulders slump a little, though he straightens quickly when he sees you watching. The courtyard fills with the soft clack of beans shifting in bowls. Neighbors call across the alley, comparing their counts, boasting or complaining. One woman insists her husband caught a merchant trying to slip in fake beans, and she laughs so hard she nearly drops her entire pouch. Another curses loudly as she discovers several hollow ones in her own stash. You glance at your mother nervously, but she only tightens her lips and continues her inspection. After what feels like forever, the counting ends. The beans are sorted, the good ones sealed in a clay jar, the suspicious ones set aside to test later. You lean back, stretching your spine, muttering that counting beans is worse than grinding them. At least grinding smells nice. The sun beats down, hot enough to shimmer the air above the ground. Your throat feels dry, your head heavy, but you know better than to ask for a drink now. The cacao must be saved for trade, for tribute, for nobles. Maybe, if the gods are feeling kind, for a small taste at the end of the day. You glance at the honey jar again, golden in the light. That, at least, is certain. Tonight, if your family agrees, the chocolate won't just be bitter and fiery. It will be sweet, too, just for a sip. That thought alone makes the bean counting almost worth it. Almost. The sun has no mercy. By afternoon, it blazes so fiercely you're convinced even the gods are sweating in their temples. The courtyard glows white, shadows vanish, and the air shimmers like it's boiling. Your skin feels sticky, your tunic clings, and your hair is plastered against your forehead. Still, the grind does not pause just because the sky has turned into an oven. You kneel once again at the metate, muscles sluggish now, hands slippery with sweat. The stone itself radiates heat, as though it's absorbed every beam of sunlight. The beans you place upon it warm instantly, releasing their oily scent faster than they should. You mutter a quiet curse, though you catch yourself before saying it too loudly. No need to attract a god's attention for complaining. Here's a historical fact to remind you why this misery is worth it. Cacao was believed to be a gift from the gods, specifically from the feathered serpent himself. To prepare it was to handle divine essence, a connection between mortal hands and sacred offerings. Knowing that doesn't make the sweat less unbearable, but it does lend the grind a certain weight. You're not just mashing beans, you're channeling cosmic energy. Or at least that's what you tell yourself to avoid collapsing face first into the paste. The heat magnifies every sound. Each scrape of stone seems louder, each cluck of a chicken sharper. Your own breath rasps, shallow and quick. You pause often now, arms trembling, sweat dripping onto the mat below. You wonder if anyone ever tried grinding cacao while floating in a river. Probably not practical, but it sounds heavenly. Quirky tidbit: some Maya households smeared lime powder on their skin to protect against the sun. Others relied on wide palm hats or, believe it or not, crocodile fat. You shiver just imagining it, hot, greasy, and reptilian. No thank you. Even mosquito bites the size of mangoes might be better than smelling like swamp beast all day. The sun forces everyone into strange rhythms. Neighbors who were chattering earlier now fall silent, each bent to their work in exhausted trances. The usual gossip fades. Even children quiet down, wilting like squash vines under too much light. Dogs dig shallow pits to sprawl in the cooler dirt. You almost envy them, belly down and carefree, while you keep rolling the manno with stiff, heavy arms. Your father curses under his breath as he works nearby, sharpening a blade. The sound of metal grating joins the scrape of your stone, the two rhythms clashing like rival drummers. You smirk faintly, imagining an entire orchestra of miserable workers, grinding stones, blade sharpeners, children whining in the background. A symphony of exhaustion. Historians still argue whether daily grinding happened mostly at dawn and dusk, when it was cooler, or throughout the day as needed. Judging by the sweat dripping into your eyes right now, you're ready to vote for the dawn and dusk camp. If you ruled this city, chocolate would only ever be prepared before sunrise, when the air is gentle and forgiving. But alas, you don't make the rules, you just suffer under them. The paste softens quickly in the heat, almost too quickly. You scrape it into a bowl, watching it glisten in the sunlight. The smell rises stronger than ever, sweet and earthy and bitter all at once, but even that doesn't distract from your parched throat. Your tongue feels like leather. You would drink anything right now, even the thin maize gruel from the morning. Of course, there is nothing, because the cacao must be saved. Always saved. Your younger brother stumbles past with a jug of water, tilting it back greedily. You glare, half furious, half jealous. He notices your expression and offers you a sip, but your mother's sharp voice cuts through, not for the grinder. The grinder must finish first. You groan, pressing your forehead to the warm stone for a moment. Surely even the gods would understand a tiny drink. You press on, the metate hot beneath your palms, your muscles loose as rope. Each scrape is slower, but still steady. Your eyes blur from the heat, the world shimmering, but your rhythm keeps you anchored. Push forward, scrape back. Push, scrape. It's the same as always, but today it feels like an eternity. By the time the sun tips westward, you are drenched, exhausted, and faintly delirious. The courtyard finally stirs again, neighbors rising from their heat-stunned stupors, chickens fluttering, children bickering anew. The worst of the blaze has passed, though its echo lingers in your bones. You wipe your brow with a chocolate-smeared arm and laugh weakly at your reflection in a water bowl. Sticky, sweaty, and spiced, you're basically a human cup of cacao. By late afternoon, the air softens just enough for you to lift your head without feeling like it will melt clean off. The shadows lengthen, the courtyard breathes again, and so do you. But the reprieve is short, because this is when the preparation for guests begins, the part of grinding life that is both nerve-wracking and oddly thrilling. The bowl of paste you've labored over all day sits heavy in your lap, darker now, glossy from oil coaxed out of every crushed bean. It looks innocent, but you know how much hangs on it. When nobles or priests arrive to be served, this isn't just a drink. It's a performance, a statement of wealth and hospitality, a test of your family's skill. One wrong texture, one bitter mouthful, and you're the reason everyone gossips tomorrow. No pressure. Historical fact: cacao was a prestige drink. Nobles, warriors, merchants, and priests were its most common drinkers, often flavored with chili, honey, or maize. Commoners sometimes had it, too, but mostly in thin, less decadent forms. So when you prepare a thick, spiced brew for visiting eyes, you're standing in the shadow of status itself, offering a sip of what was once reserved for kings. You lift the bowl carefully, trying not to spill, and carry it to the hearth. Your mother heats water in a clay pot, steam curling upward, while your father fusses with a ladle as though it's a sacred tool. You're not far off. This isn't about dumping paste in water and stirring. It's about froth, balance, presentation. Everyone knows the frothier the chocolate, the more impressive. And froth takes skill. Quirky tidbit: some accounts suggest people would actually pour the drink from one vessel to another, held high overhead, to build that froth. Imagine juggling hot chocolate from a height while nobles watch you. You've seen it done once, by a trader with steady hands, and you've also seen it fail spectacularly when a cousin misjudged the angle and drenched his tunic instead. That memory alone makes your hands sweat more than the afternoon sun. The guests arrive just as the pot begins to bubble, two neighbors of higher rank, wearing bright woven cloaks, and a young priest whose head is shaved in the front, long hair trailing down his back. Their sandals slap against the earth, their shadows falling long in the courtyard. You bow low, partly out of respect, partly to avoid being noticed too much. After all, you're just the grinder, the unseen pair of arms behind the paste. But unseen doesn't mean unimportant. Historians still argue whether households employed specialists for chocolate preparation, or if it was mostly done within the family. Either way, when the priest sips tonight, he'll be tasting hours of your sweat. Try not to think about that part. The bowls are set out, clay vessels painted with swirling jaguars and serpents, the kind reserved for special occasions. You pour carefully, ladle to cup to cup, raising each higher until the drink foams like river water in a storm. The honey you bought glistens as it drips in, blending with the earthy bitterness. You add a pinch of chili, not too much, just enough to sting the tongue. The mixture gleams, dark as obsidian, light catching the froth on top. You hand the first bowl to your mother, who presents it to the priest with practiced grace. He accepts it, inhales deeply, and sips. For a long moment, silence. Then his eyebrows lift, and he nods once. Relief floods you so fast your knees nearly buckle. Your parents pretend composure, but you catch the flicker of a smile tugging at your father's mouth. The nobles follow, murmuring approval, speaking of trade, tribute, and city rumors as though chocolate itself oils the gears of conversation. And maybe it does. This drink isn't just about taste, it's about what it represents: cultivation, wealth, connection to the divine. You shrink back into the shadows, letting the adults talk, but inside you're grinning like a fool. You made that. You turned hard beans into liquid pride. One of the nobles chuckles, mentioning he once had a cup flavored with flowers, bright red petals steeped into the brew. He swears it tasted like drinking a garden. The priest counters with a tale of a drink spiced with black pepper, so fiery it made his eyes water. You listen with half interest, imagining new recipes, though part of you is convinced they're just exaggerating for bragging rights. As the conversation drifts, you sneak a glance at the bowls, froth still clinging to the rims. You know you won't taste any tonight, not from this batch. The best always goes to the guests, as it should. But maybe, just maybe, there will be a spoonful left when they're gone. You hold on to that thought like it's a promise. The evening breeze stirs, carrying laughter, the scent of honeyed cacao, and the distant cry of birds settling in the trees. For once, the grind has turned into something more than aching arms and sticky hands. Tonight it's respect. Tonight it's pride. The bowls clink softly as they're gathered up, empty but still frothy around the edges, and you exhale like you've been holding your breath for hours. The priest wipes his mouth with the back of his hand, murmurs a blessing that's more habit than heartfelt, and departs with the nobles at his side. Their cloaks shimmer in the fading light as they vanish down the path. And just like that, the courtyard returns to its familiar rhythm: work, sighs, and the quiet rustle of the evening air. Only now there's one more task waiting for you, and it isn't a small one. Because today wasn't just for serving guests, it was also for the tribute collectors. Historical fact: many Maya households owed cacao beans as tribute to their rulers, just as they might owe maize, cloth, or labor. These offerings supported temples, armies, and courts. For families like yours, Tribute Day wasn't a polite suggestion. It was an obligation enforced by officials with little patience for excuses. You glance at the clay jar filled with carefully counted beans from earlier. The weight of it is heavy not just in your hands, but in your stomach. Every bin handed over tonight is one less for trade, one less for your family's own use. Still, it must be done. Your father wraps the jar in woven cloth, tying the bundle tight. He mutters under his breath about collectors always arriving when the sun sets, when people are most tired and least ready to argue. You keep quiet, because the truth is, no one argues. Not really. At least, not if they want to keep their house standing. The sound of drums echoes faintly from the plaza, slow and steady, announcing the collector's arrival. Everyone knows the signal. Neighbors shuffle to their doors, holding their own bundles. Children peer out curiously before being hushed inside. Dogs bark and then fall silent, sensing the tension. The air grows thick, heavy in a different way than the afternoon heat. Quirky tidbit: some legends say tribute collectors carried painted staffs topped with cacao pods, as a symbol of their role. You've never seen one yourself, but the idea makes you chuckle darkly, like carrying a badge shaped like the thing you're about to confiscate. Subtlety was clearly not their strong suit. Soon enough, 3 figures stride into your courtyard. They wear simple cloaks, but the insignia stitched into the fabric is enough to silence everyone. One carries a small tablet to tally offerings, another holds a staff, though disappointingly not shaped like a cacao pod, and the third just watches with sharp eyes. Always watching. Your father steps forward with the bundle, bowing slightly. You stay back, though your heart thumps as if you were the one holding it. The official unties the cloth, counts the beans briskly, then nods. He makes a mark on his tablet with a piece of charcoal. No words, no smile, just a mark. It feels both relieving and insulting at once. Historians still argue whether tribute was more burdensome or more symbolic, a demonstration of loyalty to rulers. But for you, in this moment, it's neither abstract nor symbolic. It's literal beans leaving your family's hands. It's the hollow echo of loss in a clay jar. When the officials move on, the courtyard exhales as though it has lungs. Neighbors murmur, shake their heads, curse softly once the men are out of earshot. You sit down heavily, arms resting on your knees, staring at the ground. Your back aches from grinding, your fingers ache from counting, and now your chest aches from watching your work vanish into someone else's storage. And yet, beneath the sting, there's also relief. It's done. No penalties, no punishments, no angry officials banging on your door. Tomorrow you'll still have your home, your hearth, your metate. And maybe, if the gods are kind, a small bowl of chocolate saved in the kitchen. The sky deepens toward violet, stars pricking faintly through the veil. The drums in the plaza fade, replaced by the distant hum of evening insects. You lean back, letting the night breeze cool the sweat on your skin. Tribute day always leaves you drained, but also strangely light, as though the whole neighborhood shares one long, collective sigh. You glance at the honey jar again, still mostly full, and smile faintly. At least something sweet remains in your care. The courtyard glows soft in the fading light, the sun dipping low behind the thatched rooftops, the air finally easing into something breathable. After a day of grinding, counting, and tribute, your muscles ache in places you didn't know existed. But evening doesn't mean rest, not yet. Evening means stories, rituals, and a little spark of magic before the dark settles fully. Your father stirs the coals at the hearth, coaxing flame to life, while your mother lays out mats for the younger children. The dog curls up nearby, snoring already, proof that not everyone in this house has responsibilities after sundown. You rub your hands together, sticky with dried chocolate oil, and wonder if you'll ever be fully clean again. Probably not. Chocolate is your destiny, your perfume, and your curse. Here's a historical fact to warm your tired bones. Cacao wasn't only a drink for energy or pleasure. It was also a part of ritual life, used in weddings, offerings, and even burial ceremonies. Some vessels filled with chocolate have been found placed in tombs, as though the dead needed a good brew for their journey into the underworld. You imagine sipping cacao while walking into the land of shadows, at least you'd go in style. Tonight, there's no grand ceremony, but there is tradition. Your grandmother brings out a small bowl of chocolate set aside earlier, thinned with water, sweetened with just a hint of honey. Not the thick, noble brew you prepared for the priest, but enough for each family member to have a sip. She places it in the center of the mat like a treasure chest. The children's eyes widen, voices hushed. Chocolate, even in a cacao grinding household, is never casual. Every sip matters. You take your turn carefully, cupping the bowl, watching the dark liquid shimmer in the firelight. The froth is thin, but the taste earthy, bitter, edged with sweetness, slides across your tongue like silk. You swallow slowly, eyes closing, letting the day dissolve just a little. Quirky tidbit: some Maya believed the foam itself was the most sacred part, the part closest to the heavens. People would scoop it carefully, savoring it as though it contained divine breath. You glance at the rim, where a little froth clings, and lick it away before passing the bowl along. If the gods want their share, they'll just have to forgive you. As the bowl travels, your father begins a story. He speaks of the hero twins, the legendary brothers who outwitted the lords of the underworld with tricks, courage, and no small amount of sass. His voice is low and rhythmic, carrying you into the tale as firelight flickers across his face. You've heard this story before, a dozen times, maybe more, but it never grows dull. The twins laugh, fight, die, and rise again in every retelling. Historians still argue whether these stories were shared nightly or mostly during festivals, whether myth was woven into daily life or reserved for sacred time. But in your courtyard, myth and daily grind blend seamlessly. The twins feel as real as the sweat still drying on your arms, their laughter echoing in the rhythm of your father's voice. Your grandmother nods, eyes half closed, mouthing the story along. Your siblings lean forward, wide-eyed, hanging on every twist. You let your head tilt back, gaze drifting to the stars overhead. The Milky Way stretches bright across the night sky, and you remember how elders say it is the path of souls, or perhaps the trail of spilled maize. Either way, it looks like spilled sugar across a black mat. Sweet, endless, and just beyond reach. The fire pops. A child giggles. You stifle a yawn. Chocolate hums quietly in your blood, warming your chest, settling the aches from the day. You know tomorrow will bring more grinding, more sweat, more counting. But tonight, there is story, starlight, and the last taste of cacao on your lips. The tale winds down, your father's voice softening like the fire's glow. The bowl sits empty, but the comfort lingers. Neighbors call softly from their own homes, the night alive with crickets and the occasional bark of a distant dog. You stretch out on the mat, eyelids heavy, the grindstone silent for once, the world dimming into shadow. The night deepens, stars sharp and bright above you, the air cool enough now that your skin tingles with relief. You shift on the mat, curling onto your side, thinking that maybe, just maybe, you'll finally sleep without dreaming of beans rolling endlessly across a stone. But before you can drift off, a sound stirs the courtyard, the low, steady beat of drums from the plaza. You sit up, blinking. The drums aren't the dull announcement of tribute collectors this time. They're lively, pulsing, insistent, calling people out of their doorways. A festival. Of course. You'd nearly forgotten. Tonight honors one of the maize gods, and though the celebration isn't as grand as the ones for the sun or the rain, it's still enough to send half the neighborhood streaming toward the plaza. Your father grins faintly, muttering that sleep is for tomorrow. Your mother ties her hair back and smooths her tunic. The younger children bounce with excitement, already chattering about dances and food stalls. You sigh, dragging yourself upright. Your muscles ache, your body feels like a sack of stones, But even you can't resist the pull of drums on the night air. Historical fact: festivals in Maya cities often blended ritual with revelry. There were offerings to the gods, dances, music, feasting, sometimes even games of the ball court lit by torches. These gatherings weren't optional. They were how people reaffirmed their place in community and cosmos, how they remembered their myths in the language of movement and fire. The plaza glows ahead, torchlight flickering, smoke curling into the night sky. People fill the space, their faces lit by flames, their bodies swaying to the rhythm. Musicians blow into wooden flutes, shell trumpets, and drums that thump so hard you feel them in your chest. You find yourself moving with the beat despite your sore legs, your exhaustion dissolving in the tide of sound. Quirky tidbit: some dancers wear costumes shaped like jaguars, deer, or even armadillos. Tonight, one man stomps into the circle wearing a shell-covered outfit that clatters with every step. The children squeal with laughter. You laugh too, though part of you wonders how long he'll last before he collapses under the weight of his own outfit. The air is thick with scents: roasted maize, smoking turkey, ground herbs. You catch the sharp sting of chili and the sweet drift of honey. Your stomach growls, though your pouch is empty now after tribute. Still, your family shares a tamale wrapped in fresh leaves, steam curling as you tear it open. You chew slowly, savoring each bite as though it were a noble's feast. In the center of the plaza, priests step forward with bowls of offerings, flowers, maize, and yes, cacao. They raise the bowls high, letting the firelight glint off the liquid, froth shimmering. They chant prayers to the maize god, thanking him for sustenance, asking for fertility in the fields, for rain, for protection from blight. Their voices rise and fall with the drums, weaving into the night sky. Historians still argue how much chocolate was consumed publicly during festivals versus privately in noble households. Some believe commoners rarely tasted it at gatherings like this, while others suggest communal bowls were passed to symbolize unity. Tonight, you see none being passed, and you feel a pang of longing watching the priest sip. But you remind yourself of the honeyed sip you had earlier. That, at least, was yours. The dancers whirl faster now, their feet pounding in time with the drums, their feathers and shells catching sparks of torchlight. Children mimic them at the edges, spinning wildly until they fall in giggling heaps. Your sister tugs at your hand, urging you to join, but you shake your head. Not tonight. Your legs barely remember how to stand, let alone leap. Still, you clap along, the sound echoing into the chaos of music and laughter. The night stretches long, the plaza alive with fire and song. You lean against a wall, watching it all blur together: flames, feathers, shadows, faces. The drums throb steady, hypnotic, and for a moment you imagine you're back at the metate, rhythm guiding your arms. Only this time, the grind isn't yours alone. It's the whole city's, pulsing together, grinding out joy instead of paste. By the time your family finally wanders home, the stars have shifted, the fire in the plaza burns low, and your eyelids feel weighted with stone. The courtyard welcomes you with its quiet, the dog snoring faithfully, the grindstone resting in the shadows. You collapse onto the mat, your body aching but your heart strangely light. Sleep finds you quickly, carrying echoes of drums and the taste of tamale, softening the hard edges of the day. For once, you don't dream of beans or grinding. You dream of stars spilling like sugar across the night, and the beat of drums guiding your steps into the sky. The rooster shouts before the first hint of dawn, his voice splitting the dark like a cracked flute. You groan, roll onto your stomach, and bury your face in the mat, but there's no escaping it. The day begins again whether you're ready or not. Your arms are stiff from yesterday's grind, your knees ache from kneeling on reed mats, and your throat feels like someone lined it with dust. Still, the household stirs, and you follow suit. Your mother moves first, rekindling the fire with practiced strikes of flint. Sparks glow, then flare into flame, shadows dancing across the courtyard walls. She hums softly, her voice blending with the faint rustle of neighbors starting their mornings. Chickens cluck, dogs stretch, a baby cries somewhere down the lane. You drag yourself upright, rubbing your eyes, already aware of the stone waiting for you. Historical fact: for many Maya families, cacao was not only about tribute and ritual but also about daily sustenance. Ground with maize and water, it could become a kind of filling porridge, a drink that fueled labor in the fields and homes. Not every cup was fit for nobles, most were thin, practical, and unadorned. That's what your family starts with this morning, a simple chocolate maize drink, just enough to warm the belly. Your father ladles it out, steaming and plain. The children sip quickly, smacking lips at the faint bitterness, while you cradle your bowl like a relic. The flavor is earthy, faintly gritty, but it steadies you. You joke under your breath that it tastes like chocolate's poor cousin, and your brother snorts into his bowl so loudly he nearly chokes. Your mother glares, but even she hides a smile. Quirky tidbit: some stories claim that drinking cacao at dawn sharpened the mind, preparing people to speak eloquently. You try a sip, wait, then declare in your most dramatic voice, "I am now wise enough to command the gods themselves." Your little sister giggles, unimpressed. The dog sneezes, which feels like a review. As the sun creeps up, golden rays spilling into the courtyard, you kneel again before the metate. The stone is cool from the night, smooth against your palms, almost gentle. You savor the feel, because you know it won't last. By noon it will be hot again, slick with oil, punishing as ever. But for now, there's quiet. Historians still argue how much of daily cacao preparation fell to children versus adults, whether grinding was a shared duty or one relegated to the youngest and least powerful. You know the answer here. It's yours. Your parents have fields and obligations, your siblings are too small. That leaves you, forever bent to the rhythm of stone on stone. The courtyard hums to life around you. Your father sharpens tools, the rasp of stone on obsidian echoing your own scrape. Your mother shapes maize dough into flat discs, patting them between her palms with steady rhythm. The smell of roasting tortillas drifts through the air, a warm, toasty perfume that makes your stomach grumble again despite the porridge. Neighbors call across the walls, trading greetings, jokes, and news. One woman laughs about last night's festival, claiming she saw a man in an armadillo costume fall flat on his back and flail like an overturned beetle. You laugh too, though your laugh comes out more like a wheeze from the effort of grinding. The morning wears on, and the sun climbs higher. Sweat beads at your temple, but the air is still bearable, the breeze cool against your arms. You keep rolling the mano, pushing and scraping, coaxing paste from beans that resist every touch. The rhythm lulls you again, stone against stone, breath against breath. For a brief moment, you think about what lies beyond this courtyard. The jungle, thick and alive. The rivers, wide and shimmering. The great temples, towering against the sky. You imagine yourself climbing those steps not as a servant or grinder but as a priest, holding a bowl of cacao high before the crowd. You smile faintly at the thought, even as the paste clings stubbornly under your fingers. The dream fades with the grind. Reality always does. Still, it leaves a taste like the honey jar hidden away in the kitchen, golden and waiting. Sweetness exists, even if only in glimpses. The sun tips higher. The courtyard grows louder. The paste thickens slowly under your hands. Another day has begun, and the grind continues. By midday, the sun once again rules overhead, as relentless as a noble tax collector. Your shoulders sag with the familiar weight of fatigue, though your hands keep moving out of habit, stone sliding over stone, paste collecting in the hollow of the metate. It's as if your body knows the rhythm even when your mind wanders elsewhere. And wander it does. Because today, as you grind, You can't help but think about the future. Not just the next bowl, not just the next batch of tribute, but years from now. Will you always be hunched over a stone, your knees aching, your arms sore? Or will there be something else, something beyond the courtyard walls? Historical fact: the Maya world was full of specialized roles. Scribes painted codices, artisans carved jade and bone, priests guided rituals, merchants carried goods across mountains and seas. But for most, daily life stayed tethered to household tasks, fields, kitchens, grinding stones. Few escaped their birth roles. You know this, and yet you wonder if the gods ever make exceptions. You pause to stretch, tilting your head back toward the sky. Clouds drift lazily, forming shapes you can't help but interpret. One looks suspiciously like a cacao pod, plump and golden. Another resembles a jaguar, though a rather lumpy one. You chuckle quietly, imagining the gods doodling in the sky when they're bored. Quirky tidbit: some people believed clouds were the smoke of divine hearths, drifting down from the heavens. If that's true, you think, then even the gods are cooking all day. Comforting, in a twisted sort of way. The paste thickens, dark and glossy. Your fingers smell permanently of cacao, no matter how often you rinse them. You wonder what you'd smell like if you had another job, maybe wood smoke if you were a potter, maybe feathers if you were a bird keeper. Anything but chocolate. Don't get it wrong, you like the taste, but wearing it like perfume every day is a bit much. Historians still argue about the reach of cacao in daily Maya life, whether it was mostly elite, or if common households drank it often in thinner, humbler forms. You don't need a debate to know the truth in your bones. For your family, cacao is both wealth and work, blessing and burden. You love it, and you loathe it, often at the same time. Your sister wanders by, chewing on a tortilla, and asks bluntly, "Will you grind forever?" You laugh at the honesty, though the question lingers heavier than you'd like. "Maybe," you say. "Maybe until the gods decide I've had enough." She shrugs, satisfied, and trots off, leaving you with the weight of her words. The courtyard grows quiet in the heat, everyone drifting into their own tasks or half-naps. You keep scraping, scraping, scraping. Your thoughts wander to distant cities, to temples whose steps you've never climbed, to markets bigger than you can imagine. Maybe one day you'll follow the merchants, trading cacao for jade, salt, obsidian. Maybe you'll see the sea itself, where the horizon swallows the sky. Or maybe you'll stay here, kneeling at this stone, arms aching, sweat dripping, turning beans into paste until you're old and grey. It's not a glamorous thought, but it's not terrible either. There's rhythm in the grind, familiarity, even comfort. The world may shift, rulers may rise and fall, but the chocolate always gets made. You scrape the paste into a bowl, fingers sticky, and glance at the honey jar again. A drop glistens at the rim, catching the light. Sweetness exists, you remind yourself, even if only in small doses. Maybe that's enough. The sun dips slightly westward, the air still blazing but less merciless. You stretch your arms, rolling sore shoulders, and smile faintly. The grind may be endless, but it's yours. For now, that will have to do. The sun finally slips low, sliding behind the ridge of jungle trees until the light softens into a wash of amber and violet. Shadows lengthen across the courtyard, your grinding stone now more silhouette than surface. You sigh, rolling the last of today's paste into a bowl, your arms trembling faintly from the hours of rhythm. Your knees feel bruised, your back stiff, but you also feel strangely calm, as though the weight of the day has pressed you into stillness. Your family begins settling for evening. The fire crackles, tortillas warm on the comal, smoke curling lazily into the dusky air. Children chatter, chasing the last moments of light with squeals and laughter. Dogs curl into sleepy heaps, tails twitching at unseen dreams. You let the bowl of paste rest near the fire, knowing it will be mixed into tomorrow's drink, tomorrow's tribute, tomorrow's endless rhythm. Historical fact: cacao was tied to cycles, not just of labor but of time. It appeared in rituals for planting and harvest, in offerings at marriages and burials, in feasts that marked the turn of the calendar. A substance both daily and divine. Tonight, you feel that truth in your bones. This paste isn't just work, it's continuity, linking you to ancestors and descendants you'll never meet. You sit back, leaning against the cool wall, watching the stars blink into being one by one. First faint, then brighter, until the sky feels sprinkled with thousands. The Milky Way arches overhead, shimmering like spilled sugar. Somewhere in that stretch of light, the gods are said to dwell, their hearths glowing, their stories unfolding. Quirky tidbit: some Maya believed the Milky Way itself was a giant celestial cacao tree, its roots sunk into the underworld, its branches spreading through the heavens. You gaze up, smile faintly, and think, if that's true, then the grinding never ends, not even in the stars. Historians still argue how much common people like you thought about cosmology while grinding away at daily tasks. But you know that even if your hands are bound to stone, your mind is free to wander. And tonight, as the night deepens, you let it wander far. Your eyelids grow heavy. The children's laughter fades. The dog snores softly nearby. You curl onto your reed mat, the day's grind echoing faintly in your arms, a phantom rhythm that lulls you rather than punishes. You breathe slow, steady, sinking into warmth, into darkness, into rest. As the story softens into silence, imagine yourself lying there safe, calm, surrounded by the hush of insects, the sigh of the night breeze through the trees. The grinding stone waits in the shadows, but it no longer demands. Tonight, it is only part of the background, like the stars overhead or the heartbeat in your chest. Your body loosens, each muscle unwinding as if the day's work is being slowly unstitched. Shoulders melt, arms grow weightless, legs sink heavy into the mat. The air is cooler now, gentle against your skin, carrying the scent of smoke and earth, a reminder that you are held, grounded, part of something vast yet peaceful. The drums of last night's festival are gone, the chatter of the market quiet, the shouts of nobles and neighbors dissolved into stillness. What remains is only the steady hum of night, the whisper of leaves, the distant croak of frogs, the flicker of firelight fading low. You drift between waking and sleep, hovering at the edge of dreams where jaguars prowl softly and cacao trees stretch into the stars. There is no hurry here, no weight of tribute, no endless grind. Only rhythm, gentle and slow, carrying you into rest. So close your eyes fully now. Let the day's echoes dissolve into calm. The stars above are countless, the night eternal, and your breath steady as the rivers flow. You are safe. You are whole. You are finally free to dream.